Just sign here, Mom, it's a formality, they said about the deed, so I had my lawyer review it with them. Present well, honey. You should have seen their faces when Attorney Johnson walked into that meeting with a stack of papers thick as a Sunday hymnal. My son David went white as fresh snow, and his wife Kayla, oh my stars, she looked like she'd swallowed a live toad. What's he doing here? David stammered, pointing at my lawyer like he was the Grim Reaper himself. I just smiled my sweetest grandmother smile and said, "Why, sugar, I thought you said this was just a formality." So I brought my own formality. That's when they knew Grandma Evelyn Rose McAllister wasn't playing games anymore. Hello there, darlings. Welcome to Granny's Tales of Sweet Justice, where this old bird proves that age ain't nothing but a number, and wisdom beats youth every single time. I'm Evelyn Rose McAllister, 76 years young, speaking to you from my beautiful white ranch house here at 1247 Maple Grove Lane in Cedar Hill, Missouri. Been living in this house for 43 years, raised my children here, and plan to pass it down with love and respect. Now, before we dive into today's tale, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, because honey, grandma's got stories that'll make your blood boil and your heart sing all at the same time. And stick around till the end, because I've got some wisdom that just might save you from making the same mistakes my family did. You know, I raised my children with old-fashioned values. Respect your elders, help your family, and never bite the hand that feeds you. For 43 years, I lived by those principles, thinking my children learned them too. Boy, was I wrong about that. But sometimes, sugar, being wrong teaches you the most important lessons of all. Let me paint you a picture of the kind of grandmother I've been. When my son David graduated college back in 1995, who do you think co-signed his student loans? That's right, yours truly, $28,000 worth of education that I helped guarantee. When he couldn't find work right away, who let him move back home for 2 years rent-free, while he found himself this old gal when David married Kayla in 1999, who paid for half their wedding. The reception at the Cedar Hill Country Club cost me $12,000 out of my retirement savings. I didn't mind one bit, because I thought I was investing in my family's happiness. I even gave them $10,000 for a down payment on their first house in Springfield. Then came the grandchildren. Logan was born in 2001, followed by Madison in 2003. Oh, how I loved those babies. Every weekend, they'd come stay with Grandma Evelyn. I'd take them to Dairy Queen, buy them clothes at the Walmart, and spoil them rotten like grandmothers are supposed to do. During school breaks, I became their full-time babysitter so David and Kayla could work without paying for childcare when Logan needed braces at age 12. Who wrote the check to Dr. Patterson's orthodontics office when Madison wanted to join the traveling soccer team that cost $300 a month? Who made sure she could play? This grandmother, that's who. I figured that's what the money was for, making sure my family had everything they needed. In 2018, when David's construction business hit hard times during that awful recession, I didn't hesitate to help. I pulled $15,000 from my savings and gave it to him to keep his business afloat, just until things turn around. Mom, he promised, I'll pay you back with interest. That same year, when Kayla's mother got sick with cancer, I opened my home to her for 6 months, cooked her meals, drove her to chemotherapy appointments at Mercy Hospital, and never asked for a dime in return. When she passed away, I even helped pay for her funeral expenses. But somewhere along the way, my generosity stopped being appreciated and started being expected. My kindness was taken for granted, and my age became a punchline instead of something to respect. It started small, like these things usually do. Little comments that stung, but weren't quite worth confronting. "Mom, you're being dramatic," David would say whenever I expressed concern about anything. "That's just how old people think." Became Kayla's favorite phrase when I'd share my opinions about their parenting or spending habits. The grandchildren, who once hung on my every word, started treating me like I was invisible. Logan, now 23 and still living at home with his parents, would barely look up from his phone when I visited. "Hey, Grandma," he'd mumble, never offering to help me carry groceries or even opening the door for me. The boy I'd taught to ride a bicycle, who used to beg for my homemade chocolate chip cookies, couldn't be bothered to have a real conversation with me. Madison, 21 and in college, was even worse. She'd roll her eyes whenever I'd tried to share stories about the family history or give advice about anything. "Grandma, things are different now," she'd say with that condescending tone young people use when they think you're too old to understand the world. But the worst part was how they talked about me when they thought I couldn't hear. One Thanksgiving, I was in the kitchen cleaning up when I heard them in the dining room. "Mom's getting so weird about money lately," David said to Kayla. "She keeps bringing up all the stuff she's done for us like we owe her something." "I know," Kayla replied. "It's like she doesn't understand that's what parents are supposed to do." "My mom never held money over our heads like that," Logan chimed in with. "Plus, it's not like she needs the money. She's just sitting on that house worth like $300,000. She acts like she's poor or something," Madison added. "Honestly, I think she's getting senile. She tells the same stories over and over, and she gets confused about stuff sometimes. Maybe we should start thinking about assisted living options." Assisted living, I was 74. Sharp as a tack and still managing my own finances, cooking my own meals, and maintaining my own household. But to them, I was just a doddering old woman who'd outlived her usefulness. The disrespect escalated over the next 2 years. They'd make plans for family gatherings without consulting me, then act like I was being unreasonable when I couldn't make it work with my schedule. They'd joke about how I needed to learn to use technology better, even though I'd been successfully managing my online banking and email for years. David started making comments about how I was hoarding my house. "Mom, this place is way too big for you now," he'd say during visits. "You should really think about downsizing. All this space is just going to waste." Kayla would walk through my house like she was already redecorating it, commenting on how outdated everything was and how much potential the place had. She'd take pictures of rooms on her phone, claiming she was just documenting family memories. But I caught her showing them to a real estate agent friend at church one Sunday. The morning that changed everything started like any other Friday. I was having my coffee and reading the Cedar Hill Tribune when David called around 9 a.m. "Hey Mom, Kayla and I need to come over this morning. We have some important paperwork for you to look at." "What kind of paperwork, honey?" "Oh, just some legal stuff. Nothing major, but it needs your signature. We'll be there around 10. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten, but I agreed. They arrived right on time, looking unusually formal. Kayla was carrying a manila folder and wearing what I called her serious business face. "Mom." "Sit down," David said, guiding me to my own kitchen table like I was a child. "We need to talk about your future." Kayla opened the folder and pulled out a stack of official-looking documents. "Evelyn, we've been thinking a lot about your situation here. This house is becoming too much for you to handle. And we're worried about your safety." "My safety?" I asked. "What are you talking about?" "I'm perfectly fine." "Mom, you're 76 years old," David said in that patronizing tone I'd grown to hate. "What if you fall? What if you have a medical emergency? You're all alone out here." Kayla slid the papers across the table. "We've found the perfect solution. There's a lovely assisted living facility called Sunset Manor just outside of town. They have a waiting list, but if we put your house on the market now, we can secure you a spot and have the funds ready. I looked at the papers. They were deed transfer documents. Naming David as the sole owner of my property, my heart started pounding, but I kept my voice steady. You want me to sign over my house? It's really the best thing for everyone, Kayla said with fake sweetness. You'll be safe and taken care of, and we can handle all the complicated business of selling the property and managing your finances. It's just a formality. Really? David leaned forward. Just sign here, Mom. It's a formality. We're family. We're looking out for you. That phrase, just a formality, hit me like a lightning bolt. This wasn't about my safety or my well-being. This was about my house, my money, and my independence. They wanted me to sign away everything I'd worked for my entire life so they could cash in. What about the money from the sale? I asked, testing them. Oh, don't worry about that. David said quickly, we'll make sure you have everything you need at Sunset Manor. The rest will go into a trust fund for your care. A trust fund they would control. No doubt. I need to think about this, I said, pushing the papers back across the table. Kayla's fake smile faltered. There's really nothing to think about, Evelyn. We've already spoken to the people at Sunset Manor. They're expecting you next month. Next month? The audacity was breathtaking. Mom, we're trying to help you, David said, his voice getting sharper. You can't live in denial forever. You're old, you're alone. And this house is too much for you. We're offering you a solution. What? If I don't want your solution, then you're being selfish, Kayla snapped, dropping her sweet act. Do you want to end up falling down these stairs and lying here for days before someone finds you? Do you want to be that crazy old lady who dies alone surrounded by cats? I don't even have cats. Just sign the papers, Mom, David said firmly. Stop being difficult. That's when it hit me. To them, I wasn't their beloved mother and grandmother anymore. I was an obstacle standing between them and what they saw as their inheritance. I was a problem to be solved, not a person to be respected. I stood up from the table. I need to use the bathroom. Give me a minute to process all this in the privacy of my bathroom. I gripped the sink and looked at myself in the mirror. Evelyn. Rose McAllister, you've been played for a fool, I thought. But you're not dead yet, and you're certainly not going down without a fight. When I came back to the kitchen, they were whispering urgently to each other. They stopped when they saw me. Okay. I said calmly, I'll sign the papers. Their faces lit up with relief and greed. But I continued, I want to have my lawyer review them first. Just to make sure everything is in order. Mom, that's not necessary, David said quickly. We've already had them looked at by a lawyer. Your lawyer, I pointed out. I'd like mine to take a look too. Surely you understand that. Kayla's jaw tightened. How long will that take? Oh, not long at all. How about we all meet here again next Friday morning? Same time, I'll have Attorney Johnson review everything. And if he says it's all proper, I'll sign. They exchanged a look that told me everything I needed to know. They were hoping to rush me into signing without proper legal review. The fact that they were annoyed by my reasonable request confirmed my suspicions. Fine, David said tersely. Next Friday, after they left, I sat in my kitchen and cried. Not from sadness, but from rage. These people I'd loved and supported and sacrificed for were trying to steal everything from me. They thought I was too old and too trusting to see through their scheme. Well, they picked the wrong grandmother to mess with. That Friday afternoon, I called Attorney James Johnson's office. Jim had handled my will and various legal matters for 15 years. He was a straight shooter who'd never steered me wrong. Evelyn, what can I do for you? He asked when I got him on the phone. Jim, I need to see you first thing Monday morning. My family is trying to con me out of my house, and I need to understand my options. Good Lord. Come in at 9 a.m. Bring any paperwork they've given you. That weekend was the longest of my life. I kept thinking about all the signs I'd missed, all the little clues that should have told me what they really thought of me. But I also spent time planning. If they wanted to play games with Grandma, I was going to make sure I won. Monday morning, I walked into Jim's office with the deed transfer papers. He read through them carefully, his expression growing darker with each page. Evelyn. These documents would give David complete ownership of your property with no legal obligation to provide for your C.R. or housing. If you signed these, you could be homeless by next week with no legal recourse. That's what I figured. There's more. See this clause here. It also gives him power of attorney over all your financial accounts. He could clean out your savings, and you'd have no legal standing to stop him. My blood ran cold. So they weren't just after the house. No, Mum, they were after everything. Jim leaned back in his chair. What do you want to do about this? I want to make sure they never try something like this again, with me or anyone else. Well, we have several options over the next hour. Jim and I crafted a plan that would not only protect me, but teach my family a lesson they'd never forget. It was legal, ethical, and absolutely devastating. First, we prepared a real deed transfer, but not the one they expected. I was transferring ownership of my house to a newly created family trust, with myself as the sole trustee and beneficiary during my lifetime. Upon my death, the house would go to a local charity, not to David. Second, we prepared new financial power of attorney documents, naming Jim as my attorney-in-fact instead of David, who I'd apparently designated years ago without really thinking about it. Third, and most importantly, Jim prepared a detailed legal letter outlining exactly what David and Kayla had attempted to do, complete with copies of their fraudulent documents. This letter would be sent to David's business partners, Kayla's employer, and several mutual friends and family members. Are you sure you want to go this far? Jim asked. Jim. They were going to make me homeless and penniless. They were counting on me being too old and trusting to protect myself. I want everyone to know exactly what kind of people they really are. Then we'll be ready for Friday's meeting. Friday morning arrived crisp and clear. I got up early, made myself a nice breakfast, and put on my best dress, the navy blue one with pearl buttons that made me feel powerful. I wanted to look my absolute best when I destroyed their little scheme. Jim arrived at 9:45 a.m., carrying his briefcase and wearing the kind of serious expression that makes people nervous. We arranged his papers on my dining room table and waited. David and Kayla arrived precisely at 10 a.m., both looking confident and eager. They'd probably spent the week planning how to spend my money. Morning, Mom, David said, kissing my cheek, like the dutiful son, ready to get this paperwork sorted out. Oh yes, honey, I'm very ready. Kayla spread their documents on the table again. Attorney Johnson, thank you for coming. As you can see, these are very straightforward documents, nothing complicated. Jim put on his reading glasses and made a show of reviewing their papers. MMMHMM. Yes, I see, Mrs. McAllister. Before we proceed, I have some documents of my own that need your signature. What documents? David asked, his tone sharpening. Well, given the serious nature of transferring property ownership, I've prepared some additional legal protections for your mother, standard procedure in cases like this. Jim placed a thick stack of papers in front of me. Mrs. McAllister, these documents establish a family trust that will protect your interests while ensuring your care needs are met. Kayla leaned forward. That seems unnecessary. Our documents already cover everything. Do they? Jim asked mildly. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a magnifying glass. Let's take a closer look at your documents. For the next 10 minutes, Jim went through their deed transfer line by line, explaining in legal terms exactly what each clause meant. David and Kayla grew increasingly uncomfortable as Jim highlighted every single way their documents would have left me destitute and powerless. So you see, Jim concluded, if Mrs. McAllister had signed your documents, she would have had no legal right to remain in this house. No control over the proceeds from its sale, and no guarantee of care or support. That's not, we wouldn't, David stammered. What you would or wouldn't do is irrelevant, Jim said crisply. What matters is what these documents legally require you to do. Which is absolutely nothing. Kayla's face was red with anger. We're family. We would never hurt Evelyn. Really? Jim reached into his briefcase again and pulled out a small recording device. Mrs. McAllister. Would you like me to play the recording you made last week? Their faces went white. I hadn't made any recording, but they didn't know that. What recording? David asked weakly. The one where you discussed putting your mother in the cheapest possible assisted living facility and using the house money to pay off your business debts and buy that lake house you've been wanting. I'd hit the nail on the head. The looks on their faces told me everything. Now then, Jim continued, let's discuss the real documents that need signing. He placed the trust documents in front of me. Mrs. McAllister, these papers establish you as the sole trustee of your property during your lifetime. You retain complete control over your house and finances. With additional legal protections against financial exploitation, I signed my name. With a flourish, what does that mean for us? Kayla asked in a small voice. Jim smiled coldly. It means you have no claim to this property, now or ever, upon Mrs. McAllister's death. The house will be donated to the Cedar Hill Historical Society. You can't do that, David exploded. This house should stay in the family. It would have, I said quietly, if the family had treated me like family instead of like an ATM machine. Jim pulled out another set of documents. I'm also required to inform you that attempting to defraud an elderly person of their property is a felony in Missouri. Mrs. McAllister could press charges if she chose to. We weren't defrauding anyone, Kayla protested. Really? Then why did you tell her it was just a formality when you knew these documents would make her homeless? Silence filled the room. Here's what's going to happen, I said, standing up. You two are going to leave my house and never come back unless you're invited. You're going to tell Logan and Madison that they need to start treating me with respect if they want any relationship with me at all, and you're going to think very carefully about how you've treated the person who loved you most in this world. Mum, you're overreacting. David tried one last time. Am I? Jim, show them the letter. Jim handed them each a copy of the legal letter detailing their attempted fraud. This letter is being sent to David's business partners at McAllister Construction, Kayla's supervisor at the insurance agency, and 12 members of your extended family and social circle. They'll know exactly what you tried to do here. Kayla started crying. You're ruining our lives. No, honey, you ruined your own lives when you decided to steal from your mother. They left without another word, slamming the door behind them. The next few days were quiet but satisfying. Jim's letter had gone out as promised, and my phone started ringing almost immediately. My sister Martha called first. Evelyn, I cannot believe what David and Kayla tried to do. Are you all right? I'm better than all right, Martha. I'm free. David's business partner Mike called to apologize for their behavior and assure me that the company would not be associated with such actions. David's been removed from his partnership role pending a full review. He said, we can't have someone capable of defrauding their own mother representing our company. Kayla's boss from State Farm called to express similar concerns. Mrs. McAllister, I want you to know that Kayla's employment status is under review. We take these matters very seriously in the insurance industry. My church friends started reaching out too. Word had spread through our small community like wildfire. The general consensus was shock that David and Kayla could stoop so low, and admiration for how I'd handled the situation. "Good for you, Evelyn," said my friend Dorothy from the Church Ladies Auxiliary. "It's about time someone stood up to these entitled young people." But the call that surprised me most came 3 days later. It was from Madison. "Grandma, it's Madison, I heard what happened. Hello, sweetheart. Grandma, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Mom and Dad were planning something like that. I'm horrified. Are you really, honey, or are you just upset that your inheritance disappeared?" There was a long pause. "I deserve that." "Grandma, I know I haven't been a good granddaughter lately. I know I've been disrespectful and took you for granted, but what Mom and Dad tried to do, that's not who I want to be. What do you want, Madison? I want to come see you. I want to apologize properly, and I want to try to rebuild our relationship, if you'll let me." I thought about it for a moment. "You can come for Sunday dinner this week. We'll see how it goes. Thank you, Grandma. I love you." "I love you too, sweetheart." Logan never called. The fallout continued to unfold over the following weeks. David's construction business lost several major contracts when word got out about his character issues. He had to let go of most of his employees and was struggling to keep the company afloat. Kayla was placed on suspension from her job pending an internal investigation. The insurance industry takes a dim view of employees who commit fraud, even against their own family members, but the real consequences were social. In a small town like Cedar Hill, reputation matters. People stopped inviting them to parties. Their friends became distant. They were whispered about at the grocery store and avoided at church. Madison came for Sunday dinner as promised, and we had a long, difficult conversation about respect, family, and growing up. She'd been genuinely shocked by her parents' actions and was trying to figure out how to maintain relationships with both me and them. "Grandma, I want you to know that I never supported what they tried to do. I didn't even know about it until after it happened, but you did support the idea that I was too old to manage my own life." I pointed out, "You talked about assisted living options." She looked down at her plate. "You're right. I'm ashamed of that. I think I got caught up in their attitude without really thinking about what we were saying about you." "Madison, I'm 76, not 96. I'm sharp, I'm healthy, and I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. The fact that you couldn't see that tells me how little attention you've been paying to who I actually am. I know, I'm sorry. Can we start over? We've been working on it. Madison comes for dinner every other Sunday now, and we're slowly rebuilding trust." She started asking about family history and actually listening to my stories. It's a work in progress, but it's progress. Logan, on the other hand, has sided completely with his parents. He sent me a nasty text message, calling me selfish and vindictive. I blocked his number. It's been 6 months since that Friday morning when my family tried to steal my life from me. The consequences of their actions are still rippling through their lives. David's construction business failed completely. He had to file for bankruptcy and take a job working for one of his former competitors. The stress has taken a toll on his health and his marriage. Kayla lost her job at State Farm and has struggled to find new employment in the insurance industry. Her reputation in the field is essentially ruined. They had to sell their house and move into a small apartment. Ironically, they're now living in the kind of reduced circumstances they'd planned for me. Logan still lives with them, working a minimum wage job at the local hardware store. He's angry and bitter, blaming me for his family's downfall instead of recognizing that his parents brought it on themselves. But Madison has flourished. She transferred to a college closer to home and comes to see me regularly. She's studying social work now, specializing in elder care advocacy. I want to make sure other grandparents don't go through what you went through, she told me. We've become closer than we ever were when she was growing up. She helps me with yard work and technology, and I help her with her studies and life advice. It's the kind of relationship I always hoped to have with my grandchildren. As for me, I'm thriving. At 76, I feel more alive and empowered than I have in years. Standing up for myself and refusing to be a victim has given me a new sense of purpose. I've joined the Cedar Hill Senior Advocacy Group, where I share my story to help other elderly people recognize and resist financial abuse. Attorney Johnson asked me to speak at the Missouri Bar Association's conference on elder law, and I've become something of a local celebrity in the fight against senior exploitation. My house is still my castle. I've made some improvements, updated the kitchen, added a security system, and converted the spare bedroom into a home office where I write articles for the Senior Advocacy newsletter. I've also reconnected with old friends I'd neglected while focusing so much on my ungrateful family. My social calendar is fuller than it's been in years. Most importantly, I've learned to value myself. For too long, I measured my worth by how much I could give to others. Now I understand that respect isn't something you buy with generosity, it's something you earn by demanding it. Looking back on this whole experience, I've learned some hard but valuable lessons that I want to share with all of you watching. First, being generous doesn't guarantee gratitude. I spent 40 years giving freely to my family, assuming that my love and support would create lasting bonds of respect and appreciation. Instead, my generosity became an expectation, and my age became a liability in their eyes. Second, respect isn't automatic, not even from family. Blood relations don't entitle anyone to treat you poorly. If your own children don't respect you, you have every right to set boundaries and enforce consequences. Third, age is not a disability. Society wants to convince us that reaching a certain age means we're automatically incompetent, confused, or helpless. That's nonsense. I'm sharper at 76 than some people half my age. Don't let anyone diminish your capabilities just because you've got a few decades of wisdom under your belt. Fourth, it's never too late to stand up for yourself. I could have signed those papers and accepted my fate as a powerless old woman. Instead, I chose to fight back. The results have been life-changing. Finally, sometimes the people who claim to love you are actually your biggest threat. Financial abuse of elderly people is most often committed by their own family members. Trust, but verify. Love, but protect yourself. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you have adult children or grandchildren who treat you like an ATM, who dismiss your opinions, who make jokes about your age, or who are already circling like vultures around your assets, please listen to me. You are not too old to matter. You are not too weak to fight back. You are not obligated to sacrifice your security and dignity for people who don't appreciate you. Get yourself a good lawyer. Protect your assets. Document any concerning behavior. And most importantly, remember that you raised these people. If they're acting entitled and disrespectful, you have the power to teach them otherwise. Don't wait until they're trying to steal your house to set boundaries. Do it now while you still have time to train them how to treat you properly. And to you younger folks watching, the ones who might see your own behavior reflected in my family story, I want you to listen carefully. Your parents and grandparents sacrificed for you in ways you'll never fully understand. They gave up dreams, opportunities, and comfort to make sure you had what you needed. The fact that they're older now doesn't make them less valuable or less deserving of respect. That house you're eyeing as your inheritance, they earned it. That money you think should be the family's, they saved it. You are not entitled to any of it just because you share DNA. If you want to inherit something someday, earn it with love, respect, and genuine care. Don't assume it's coming to you automatically. And definitely don't try to take it by force or manipulation. You're elderly. Relatives aren't A-teamers, and they're not obstacles to your financial plans. They're human beings who deserve dignity, respect, and autonomy for as long as they're capable of maintaining it. So here I sit, 6 months later, in my beautiful house that I own free and clear, surrounded by legal protections that ensure no one can ever again try to steal my independence. My real friends know the truth about what happened, my community respects me more than ever, and I sleep peacefully knowing I stood up for myself when it mattered most. David and Kayla. They're learning the hard way that actions have consequences. They gambled with someone they thought was weak and defenseless, and they lost everything that really mattered: their reputation, their financial security, and their family relationships. Logan? He made his choice to side with dishonesty and greed over love and respect. I'm sad about losing him. But I won't lose sleep over someone who would rather blame me than hold his parents accountable for their attempted theft. Madison gives me hope that not everyone in the younger generation has forgotten what respect means. She's proof that people can change and grow when they're willing to face hard truths about themselves. But the most important thing I've learned: never underestimate a grandmother who's been pushed too far. We didn't survive this long by being pushovers. We survived by being tough, smart, and resourceful. And when you try to take advantage of those qualities, you're going to get a lesson you'll never forget. Well, sugar, that's today's tale from Granny's corner of the world. I hope it gave you some food for thought and maybe some inspiration too. Stand up for yourself if you need to. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to Granny's Tales of Sweet Justice, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode. I've got plenty more stories about folks who thought they could take advantage of this old bird and learned otherwise. Leave me a comment below telling me about a time you had to stand up for yourself, or share your own family drama stories. I read every single comment, and who knows, your story might be featured in a future episode. And remember, darlings, respect your elders, protect your assets, and never, ever underestimate a grandmother with a good lawyer and nothing left to lose. Until next time, this is Evelyn Rose McAllister reminding you that age and treachery will always overcome youth and enthusiasm. Stay strong, stay smart, and don't let anybody make you feel like you don't matter just because you've got a few miles on your odometer. Take care now, and I'll see you in the next tale.